Arcanine and Arcanine. One's a fire type and the other's blind. It's Arcanine and Arcanine. Fuzzy orange friends till the end of time. It's Arcanine and Arcanine. Cruising the Pokemon path since 1999. It's Arcanine and Arcanine. Get ready for another episode of Pokemon Timeline.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Pokemon Timeline, the series that dictates each set in the Pokemon TCG on the 25th anniversary of their release, and breaks it down into tangible, simple, short, and understandable, relatable facts for the fellow friends and collectors in the TCG. I am Arc, the Canine, and this is my friend here, Arcanine. So, without further ado, y'all, let's do our best to try and collect them all. So, today on episode 4 of Pokemon Timeline, yeah, can't believe it's actually already February, we are going to be talking about the base set 2. That's right, we're talking about the 4th set, and the 4th set is really kind of unique, because this is an American or basically TCG only set. It's never really solidified itself with Japan because Wizards of the Coast, who owned the game at the time, decided, guess what? I'm going to make my own set, and I'm going to basically have a reprint set. 4 sets in, let's have a reprint. Pokemania was real at the time. So again, this set, being called Base Set 2, was never released in Japan, so it's only here in the States, and it was a very interesting set because it was an amalgamation of Base Set and Jungle. You know, they basically just hemmed 2 sets together and went, we're going to polymerize you, that's what we're going to do. And so this set, as it were, was basically just reprints. That's it. There was nothing new, just in case you want to look through them, absolutely nothing really new, just Base Set and Jungle. Now, funny enough, there also were some differences in the sense that there was no first edition. There was not any first edition made of this set. So, you know, you had first edition of Base, Jungle, and Fossil, none of this. So that was an interesting thing as well. But one of the interesting things that I definitely want to talk about this set is that it also featured a new foil. So we ended up saying basically what I said last time in the Fossil set. Was the last time that we had what was known as the Galaxy foil, and we started off with the Cosmos Holo foil, so that's what we ended up dealing with now, and we're going to deal with that for quite a while. So basically, if you want to know the difference, you can look it up, but essentially before you had the little stars and the little patterns, and when you would turn the card, it looked almost holographic in the sense that it was popping out of the picture a little bit. But these, it's just the little dots, little swirls. So there's definitely a difference. But nonetheless, this set was released 25 years ago on the anniversary, obviously making this episode. So it was released on February the 24th in the year 2000. That's right, Y2K didn't happen, so we got Base Set 2 to make up for all that, didn't we? So this set had 130 cards, which, to be frank with you, is a lot bigger than the other sets that we had in the past, because really, even the largest set to this point had been Base Set 2, had been Base Set, and so Base Set 2 was even bigger. So, in this set, you still had Holos and Rares and Uncommons and Commons. Now, these had slightly different lineups. Before, it was basically Holos are this number to this number, Rares this number to this number, and so on and so forth, and they were all lined up pretty much perfectly well. In this one, it's a little tricky. So basically you had 20 Holos, and those did stay the same. It was numbers 1 through 20, which we'll show you at the end of the video, of course, my private collection. But when it came to the Rares, you had 20 Rares as well, but these Rares were numbers 21 to 32, which were the Pokemon, and then numbers 101 to 108, which were the trainers. Then, as you moved on to the uncommons, you had 41 uncommons. And these uncommons were numbers 33 to 64 for the Pokemon. And then for the trainers, you had numbers 109 to 117. And then to top it all off, for the commons, you basically had 49 commons. And this was numbers 65 to 100 for the Pokemon. And then for the trainers and the energies added on at the end, it was basically numbers 118 all the way up to 130. So the ratios on this pack were pretty well the same. You still had three uncommons, 7 commons, and 1 rare. And that rare could be a non-holo or a holo. The ratios are still 1 in 3 packs. And so that definitely worked. The pack artwork was pretty cool though, because the pack artwork, unlike the past sets, you actually got 4 different designs. And so because you got 4 different designs, you had a Gyarados, you had a Mewtwo, and then you had a Pidgeot, and then to top it all off, you had a Raichu. So you had 4 different artworks, which was pretty cool to find. Now, this set is pretty insane because the price, as we talk about in every episode, back then you could get a pack of basically 11 cards and it would be $3 and a chunk of change. And you could get a booster box for roughly $110. That was 36 packs. Well, we talk about your investments. But if you were to try and buy a booster box today, if you were looking at one, then you would be looking at roughly in the ballpark of about $9,500, which is pretty incredible, honestly. But, you know, what are you gonna do? You got a lot of cards out there that people want, and it's really hard to find boxes because as kids we just tore them open, so they're really hard to find now. So when it came down to this set, there's a few extra little things. So there were some chase cards, I guess you'd call it, but the issue with that is that this was a reprint set, so a lot of kids already had these cards. But nonetheless, what I'm going to say for the chase cards in this set, in my personal opinion, is that basically it was the base set 4. It was the quartet, you know, the big ones. So basically the 4 cards that you would want to pull as holos out of this set would be your Blastoise, your Charizard, your Mewtwo, and your Venusaur. So those are kind of the 4 that you were really looking for and looking after to try and find and hunt down. There were 100 Pokemon cards in this set that were Pokemon themselves. There were 23 cards that were trainers, and then to top it off at the end, as I said, there were 7 cards that were energy. So you definitely had a good amalgamation. The set symbol itself was actually pretty identifiable. It was simply a Pokeball and the number 2 following it. So that way, if you looked at it and looked at the card, you know, basically like last time we had Aerodactyl's Claw, well, this time you can determine that the set is that by a Pokeball and a number 2. So that's actually pretty cool that we ended up having that scenario. I do want to point out though that in Jungle and Fossil, we did have pre-releases. However, there were no pre-releases with base set 2. My theory with this is that there wasn't really any technically new cards, and so the format wasn't really being warped much. So at that point, they were just like, look, we're not going to do a pre-release for this because it's not really changing the meta at all, and this is essentially a set that, in my opinion, was released strictly for the fact of filling the impulses of Pokemania at the time. But there were a few extra products, and there was a 2-player starter CD-ROM set which did contain a Machamp that, yes, it did have the out of 102. It still had the same base set sort of run because it wasn't a base set and it wasn't a base set 2 proper. You couldn't pull it from a pack. And it still says first edition on it. The main difference between the one that came out for the base set CD set, the 2-player starter set, And this one is that the base set, original one that came out in 1999, had the Galaxy foil, and this one had the Cosmos holo foil. So it's essentially a side-by-side. You can tell, not a lot of difference, basically same thing, different day, but I just felt like it was worth mentioning as far as the card goes. But there were 4 theme decks, and the theme decks are kind of pretty cool because you have some variation. The first theme deck is called Grass Chopper, and as you might have guessed, it was grass, yes, but it was also fighting. So it was a grass and fighting deck, and it contained a holographic Clefairy, and then you had hot water. No, we're in hot water. And this deck was a fire and water deck, and it contained a holographic Poliwrath. The third starter deck, as it were, was called Lightning Bug, and this one contained a holographic Chansey, and this deck was essentially a lightning and grass deck. And then the final one was called Psych Out, and this one was interesting too because it was basically a psychic water deck, and it had a Wigglytuff as a holographic. So you could get, these 4 cards as holographics outside of the booster packs, but you still had to hunt down 16 holographics in your booster packs. So it was, definitely a fun time to be a collector. And while this isn't everyone's favorite set, I definitely enjoy the set, and I think it's kind of cool. So yes, I've collected it, and so Arcanine and I are going to get out of here. I mean, it is my birth month, so we're going to go have some birthday cake and just kind of chillax. But we're going to show you the cards that are in my set, so we're going to get into it, and here come the 20 holos for you.
So, the first holographic that we have here out of the 20 is Alakazam, and there's not much to say, it's just a base set reprint. It's just a cool card to have. You can see the Cosmos holofoil and all these. Coming up next is Blastoise, and just a cool water boy, just one of the main chase cards from the set. One of the most expensive, actually, probably the second most expensive. Coming up, number 3 here is Chansey, and there's really not much to say. It's just a reprint, like all these are, but, again, I'm going to kind of go through these fast because they're all reprints. Number 4 is the big boy. That's the Charizard. That's the one most people want, and to be frank with you, it's the most expensive. But yeah, just a cool card, and definitely happy to have that in my collection for sure. Number 5 is Clefable, and not much to say, just a cute little card there. And the same with number 6 here. This is Clefairy, and again, you can see it's just a reprint from base set, so just one of those cards. It's like, cool, we get this card, and it's awesome. Number 7 is one of my favorites. It's Gyarados. It's a reprint from the base set, but I mean, who doesn't like a water dragon? It's pretty cool. I like Gyarados. Number 8 is Hitmonchan, and again, this is just a base set reprint, just different numbering and different holo pattern, but yeah, nonetheless, still cool, and I remember pulling this one as a kid. Then number 9 is Magneton, and yeah, this is the one that you didn't really want to pull out of a pack. It's the cheapest one in the set, but hey, it's somebody's got to be the least favorite, right? It's okay. But moving on here, we have another one of the chase cards. This is number 10, which is Mewtwo, and it just reminds me of the movie. It's really cool mouse boy. Awesome. Then you have Nidoking. And there's really not too much to say about Nidoking other than its counterpart, which is coming up right here, which is the Nidoqueen. And I just like them both. I think it's cool that they did a duo, male and female counterpart in the set, and that they did them back to back like that as holos. I just think that's really cool. But anyway, coming up after that, here we have the Ninetales, and this is just one of my favorite Fox Pokemon of all time. Again, just thinking of the anime and thinking of the episode with the 200-year-old woman, the ghost woman, but always one of my favorites. So then we have Pidgeot, one of the cards that's a pack artwork, and not much to say, just a cool birdie, and it's got some decent HP on it, so yeah, a pretty cool Pokemon for sure. Coming up next is Poliwrath, And Poliwrath just reminds me of Misty in the anime, just kind of cool. Water Boy, got the swirl there. Just a cool Pokemon. Coming up next, we have the Raichu, which basically just being the mascot's evolved form for the franchise. I mean, who doesn't love Raichu? It's pretty cool. Going on down here, getting closer to the end, we have Scyther. And Scyther is just, again, sorry, it's just one of those, not much to say. These are reprints, so I don't have a lot to really say on these. I'm mainly just showing them off for posterity and to complete the set. But coming up is the final chase card in the set, in my opinion, which is the Venusaur. And, so basically just really cool. It's the grass starter, in its evolved form, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur. So just really cool, and probably the third most expensive card in the set. Coming up here, we got Wigglytuff. And again, not much to say, just kind of a cool card. Not necessarily the one you'd want to pull, but not the worst of the bunch. And then finally, bringing out the end of the set, we have the Electric Legendary himself. We have Zapdos, which, I wish they'd have done Articuno and Moltres, but hey, those came out in Fossil, so what are you going to do? But yeah, just wanted to show them off. Those are the 20 cards that are the holographics that you'll need to collect to get the complete holographic set of Base Set 2.
And with that, fellow Pokemon trainers and masters, that brings to a close another episode of Pokemon Timeline. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because these episodes will continue to come out periodically as the 25th anniversary of each Pokemon set arrives down the line. Until next time, keep collecting, and remember, you gotta catch 'em all. See you later.